We discussed a rumor last week that David Ellison, CEO of Paramount or Skydance, whatever the heck you want to call it over there, it could be adding a couple of additional letters here in the near future, was floating out the idea that, you know what, prior to the split that is supposed to be taking place with Warner Brothers and Discovery next year, I might just swoop in and buy the entire lot, okay? We could be contracting Hollywood even more so, and yeah, here we are at the beginning of the week, and yeah, that apparently happened, okay? There was an offer that was floated maybe over the weekend, but it was outright rejected. But this is one of those things, right? This is just simply step one. When we last talked about this, I thought, yeah, no, this is obviously something that is eventually going to happen. Warner Brothers is in way too much debt. They can't possibly get out from underneath it under their own volition. So they're either going to have to start selling off IPs, or David Zaslav is simply going to have to manifest the purpose that he was brought in to do to begin with. He was always the money man. That was the way that he was presented when he was brought in as the new CEO. And people were kind of thinking, is he kind of positioning the studio to be bought out as opposed to recouping its reputation as a serious studio? Well, lo and behold, it's a lot more of the former than it is of the latter. It could take a little while. Like I said, I'd anticipate that there's probably going to be something of a vague framework happening in regards to a buyout in the near future, and within the next 5 years, Warner Brothers is not going to exist the way that it is right now. And even if this split goes through, the Warner Brothers streaming studio side of things, yeah, they're not going to be an independent entity. But yes, Warner Brothers Discovery rejected the Paramount Skydance acquisition offer of $20 per share as too low. Because yeah, if memory serves, Zaslav was hoping to get something closer to triple digits per share, at least 50, maybe even higher than that. But yeah, coming in at 20, that's a good opening kick the tires type offer, because it's over. Yeah, you know, Warner Brothers share price is closed at $17.10 on Friday. Don't know what they're at right now, but I would imagine all of this interest is probably driving them up a little bit, exactly what everybody wants. But Warner Brothers Discovery rejected a takeover offer for around $20 per share from David Ellison's Paramount Skydance in recent weeks as too low. So this happened within like recent weeks, okay? Back when those rumors were running around where we were discussing the validity of this. Okay, Bloomberg News reported Saturday, citing anonymous sources. But yes, the shares up from Friday, more than 36% since this news broke on September 11th. Oh, geez. Of Ellison's interest in bidding for the rival just weeks after closing the Skydance deal to acquire Paramount Global, Warner Brothers Discovery parent HBO and HBO Max, Warner Brothers Entertainment, CNN, TNT, TBS, and more, has a market cap of $42.3 billion, just about as much as the debt that they have. Bloomberg's story did not indicate whether Paramount's bid included the assumption of Warner Brothers' total debt, which, as of June 30th, was $35.6 billion. Holy! Paramount Skydance has been in talks with Apollo Global Management, an asset management firm that had previously bid for Paramount Global, about joining its bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, Bloomberg reported. Okay, so they're getting real serious on this one. Larry Ellison, the billionaire Oracle founder, who is David's father, fronted most of the money for Skydance's $8 billion deal for Paramount Global. Yeah, see, that's why the Paramount deal happened considerably, well, without the delays, okay? Without the FCC delays and all that shit. That's why that took place in relatively short order. Because that's 8 compared to, this Warner Brothers negotiation that's probably going to drag out for a little while. That is 5 times more expensive. Reps for Paramount, WBD, and Apollo did not respond to requests for comments Sunday. Yeah, because I would imagine they're probably deep in negotiations. Wilson, speaking last week at LA's Bloomberg Screen Time conference, it did not confirm that Paramount Skydance has a bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. But he went on to explain why he thinks Paramount needs to bolt on more content-producing engines to achieve sustainable growth in today's streaming-centric world, and cited Warner Brothers Discovery chief David Zaslav's comments that the industry needs more consolidation. Yeah, because exactly. Zaslav knows what he's doing. And like it or not, setting the entire studio up for an acquisition or a merger is probably exactly what he's doing. Long term, is that a good thing for the overall health of Hollywood? Which, at this point in time, why would we want to try to resuscitate a corpse? But yeah, even if this big merger between two old school, huge Hollywood studios with Paramount and Warner Brothers coming together, that leaves what? Disney is the only other kids in town? You got Sony, Columbia over there, but it's like, do we really need to address the short bus rolling up to the lot? I don't think so. Yeah, man, this acquisition would create a bunch of redundancies, lead to fewer jobs in Hollywood, But could it lead to a better quality product that's out there? Well, we haven't really seen much in regards to the turnaround, and it's very, very early when it comes to seeing if those creatives can produce anything for the new Paramount Skydance project. So we'll just have to wait and see. Warner Brothers, they can do some good stuff every now and again. They're much more of an inconsistent studio than everybody else that's out there. So time will tell what's ultimately going to happen. And while it seems like some aspects know what the future will herald, one of the big IPs over there at Warner Brothers, yeah, they actually have like no goddamn idea, because here we have James Gunn once again, okay? Not putting Peacemaker front and center, a season of television, which I think everybody has turned on at this point in time. Hilarious, right? After that finale, nobody's defending that shit, and now people are starting to come for James Gunn, and I kind of thought, it's like, yeah, we'd probably have to wait a little while after Peacemaker wrapped up before people started to doubt the vision of James Gunn for the DCU, now that we're going to have this lull in content between now and Supergirl, or Lanterns. Is that coming out first? Who knows? Who cares, man? There might be some of that cringe animated stuff that comes out. And it's funny, right? Because DC had been doing, prior to James Gunn's takeover, like, they've been doing some good animated stuff from what I've seen, from what I hear. Did you factor in Creature Commandos? And it's like, oh boy, James, what the hell are you doing? Well, the only thing that James Gunn knows how to do, and that's kind of the problem, because now everybody's starting to get hip to the one-trick pony that is James Gunn. He's not a savior. He's a creative that'll come in, he'll make a James Gunn project, and don't ask him to do anything else. Because it's so funny, right? Because Rolling Stone did another expose, I think it was in the lead up to Superman, right? Where they had those cringe black and white photos of Gunn, and I don't know, he probably did suggest doing this photo shoot once again, but I don't know if these are holdover pictures or not. Frankly, I don't care, because a lot of his rhetoric is still old holdover stuff, with him believing his own hype and blaming everybody else except for himself for his own fucking failures. But yes, now he's addressing the DCU's future, and we already knew it before he said it, what we can expect. Because just skipping ahead to the interview, because we don't need to hear all the dick sucking that goes on. You can just cut down to the meat of this. In the upcoming stuff, the Supergirl movie and the HBO Max show Lanterns, are you thinking, oh, that way about songs? Yeah, because just for a little bit of context, the previous line of questioning was all about, hey, Peacemaker has a bunch of songs in James Gunn's. Like, yeah, I really like music and I need to put that in everything that I do. It's like, oh, great, but if it doesn't make sense for the project, yeah, but I like music. Oh, okay, cool, man. There's songs in both of those things, talking about Lanterns and Supergirl, but I don't give a shit. Oh my god, if there's a song in something or not, bro, why is there music in everything that you do, and why is that a focal point of everything that you do? For me, I use songs I like. We know. Okay, listen, Superman to me was a score movie. What? No, and they had all your stupid cringe fucking mixtape moments. Bro, you put out Spotify playlists for every major character in that film. Anyways, there's just the one song that strangely probably is the biggest sort of hit song I've had come out of a show that wasn't Wigwam. You know, maybe Come and Get Your Love from the first Guardians. But everybody knew Come and Get Your Love. It was like a rediscovery of that song from a new perspective. So cool, when you were asked about Supergirl and Lanterns, all you do is talk about Guardians. Great. So yes, jumping ahead a little bit, since you said you're setting up the semi-sequel to Superman, Man of Tomorrow. Should people expect John Cena's fate, Peacemaker's fate to be addressed in that movie? No. Yeah, because I heard a little bit about that finale, and it's like, okay, cool. He's adapting a storyline that he really likes from DC. That's fantastic. But here it is, okay? This thread, will we be seeing things like this in Lanterns and Supergirl? Or is this really your arc and not necessarily the larger story? Remember, Supergirl, even though it's going to be attached to like the Super Family or whatever the hell they want to call it over there, but the Superman saga, I think he called it at one point in time. James Gunn isn't the writer, he isn't the director. That would be the director who gave us the cinematic classic that was Cruella. And the writer, I think, is some bitch that they grabbed up off the street. So I'm sure it's going to be great. But yes, no, both of those things are worked in. Okay. Well, yeah, it's a part of a larger interconnected universe. Okay, that makes sense. We know both of those stories were part of what we originally put together. So they're part of the overall tapestry. But they're also their own thing. Strap in, folks. Supergirl especially is a space adventure. It's like Guardians. Fuck's sakes, man. Can you let anything be unique? Does everything have to be self-referential James Gunn schlock? This was everybody's worst fear of you coming in. Listen, like, you can go back to some of the early Superman, early DCU videos that I did on the topic. Now, I'm not really a big James Gunn fan. I think that his shit is generally cringe, and I've held that perspective for a very long time. He's not my cup of tea when it comes to screenwriter, but I know that he's also, very competent in some stuff that he can do, and just simply the tumultuous nature that DC has had in recent years. I was just glad that there was going to be one unifying voice, and here I was hoping that, you know what, even if I don't like James Gunn's movies, okay, even if I don't like his specific vision, maybe for some of the other characters, maybe for some of the other projects, he could bring in some competent people. And because there is simply some structure that's there, we might get aspects of the DCU that are different than James Gunn. And if they manage to pique interest of other people, we could get something good moving forward. But no. Supergirl, it's like Guardians. Great, man. You might get something different with lanterns. But if Guy Gardner is going to be a part of the Green Lantern Corps, which of course he is, he's already been established. He's been in both of the other James Gunn DCU projects. So yeah, it's just going to be more fucking goofy quips. It's just going to be another big buddy team up story where it's just a big old adventure. It's just these guys are just going to have goofy rings and we're going to make quips and jokes about that. Ugh, fucking stupid. And you know what? Now that the bloom has come off the rose and that people are starting to question James Gunn very hard after Peacemaker, and even though Warner Brothers, after Superman came out after its opening weekend, they were really happy with $125 million. Would Paramount be happy with a similar return? Would David Ellison be happy to spend $360 million in order to make 3? Yeah, I don't think so. James Gunn could be fired from DC Studios if Paramount sale goes through, because I always thought he was going to be on a tight leash. He was going to get some slack to begin with. He would have the opportunity to tell his story, to see his vision fulfilled, but ultimately he would have to get something going. He would have to start clicking within a couple of entries. So I kind of thought, and many other people have as well, that 2027, Man of Tomorrow, yeah, that's probably going to be the end of the line for him. And given how quickly that's being rushed into production, I think there's some validity to that take. But also, you have far more people looking forward to Matt Reeves and Batman Part 2, and people really beginning to turn on James Gunn for just being an outright liar. I mean, would we be seeing a change even quicker than that? Rumors are swirling once again around DC Studios, and this time they'd point directly at co-CEO James Gunn. Matt McGloin of Cosmic Book News published a story alleging that Gunn could be fired if Warner Brothers Discovery is sold to Paramount Global. At this stage, the story remains unconfirmed, but any major trade outlet. But Comic Book News has a history of breaking scoops ahead of the Hollywood press, so fans are paying close attention. Yeah, can confirm on that one. He's got quite a bit correct. It's a source that I use quite often, just for whatever reason don't have it brought up. But anyways, in McGloin's article titled "A James Gunn Out at DC with Warner Brothers Sale," asserts that if the long-rumored Warner Brothers Paramount merger goes through, Gunn's time at DC would come to an end. He writes that Gunn supposedly knows his days are limited and is getting himself, his friends, and his wife big paychecks before, yes, a Warner Brothers Discovery sells. Hey, kind of checks out. The rumor continues. Skydance chief David Ellison would appoint current Warner Brothers film chief Mike De Luca to rebuild DC under new management, because, yeah, you take a look and, the Access Media has been very happy to run with the narrative that Warner Brothers has had a spectacular 2025. Oh, a record-setting, 7 consecutive films opening with $40 million domestic opening weekends. It's like, what kind of a metric is that? Is that a previous record that anybody was really tracking? But whatever. A lot of that credit, a lot of those accomplishments are being afforded to the likes of Mike De Luca, and I forget the other one, but he and his female counterpart just recently got rewarded with fairly substantial new contracts to keep them in their jobs. So, I mean, Skydance being a tech company at the end of the day, and we see the heads that are rolling over there at Paramount and the people that they're bringing in, I mean, they're just a dollars and cents company. So it totally makes sense that James, who, as it says here, McGloin points to mixed reactions towards Superman. Well, now they're starting to finally be accurately assessed. Peacemaker Season 2, well, that's already turned incredibly negative in Creature Commandos, which, yeah, you might have forgot existed as evidence that the executives might already want a clean slate. So, okay, what's the current situation? Okay, so Gunn and Safran were hired as co-CEOs for DC Studios in late 2022 on a multi-year contract that runs through the end of next year. Okay, they currently report to David Zaslav, CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. M&A talks between mergers and acquisitions, right? Yeah. Between Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount have indeed been reported by outlets like Bloomberg and Deadline, but all descriptions emphasize the negotiations are preliminary and face significant regulatory hurdles. Superman, yes, earned roughly $616 million worldwide on a $225 million budget, but we all know that those numbers are completely and totally dog shit. But even if you want to run with all of that stuff, yeah, it ended up losing $40 million. But my merch sales, though, shut up. I see my first piece of Superman 25 merch out in the wild this past weekend. It was a discarded drink cup on the side of the road. I haven't seen any new Superman t-shirts. I haven't seen any Mr. Terrific face masks or anything like that. Now, with Halloween coming up, that could, of course, change. But I would imagine if I was to see anything Superman related, it's probably either going to be some old Man of Steel stuff, because that costume, I mean, it's not bad in the grand scheme of things, or it's just going to be the old throwback Christopher Reeve classic costume, because conversation around Superman 25 has already turned. People are finally starting to realize that James Gunn is a perpetual liar, and Warner Brothers setting themselves up for a sale could lead to James Gunn having a lot more time on his hands to tell spicy jokes over there on Threads. Maybe somebody will pay attention to those. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Conspello. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.